You know that feeling, right? You get a paper back, you see that big A at the top, and, success. We all think we know exactly what that means. Hey, you did a great job. But what if it's not that simple? What if that A is actually hiding a whole lot more? Maybe even telling a much more complicated and sometimes totally contradictory story about what you really learned.
I mean, on the surface, it sounds like the easiest question ever, right? What does an A really mean? The obvious answer is, well, you mastered the material. But here's the thing. In reality, that one little letter is often just a bundle of totally different messages all smushed together, and sometimes, some of those messages have absolutely nothing to do with mastering the content at all.
Think about it. Getting an A because you absolutely nailed the content. That's one thing. But what about an A because you showed a ton of improvement from where you started? Or an A just for, being a good student and following all the rules? Those are three completely different achievements, and yet we use the exact same symbol for all of them. That's really the heart of the problem here. We're trying to tell a complex story using a single, kind of blunt instrument.
All right, so to really unpack why this happens, we've got to peel back the first layer of this onion, and that is the philosophy of grading itself. See, every single grade you've ever gotten is built on a foundation, a core belief about what an assessment is even supposed to do in the first place. And really, a powerful grading philosophy isn't about being a judge with a gavel, handing down a final verdict. No, it's much more like a GPS or a roadmap. It's a tool that's meant to show you exactly where you are, where you're trying to go, and hey, here are the best routes to get there. The real goal isn't just to slap a label on you, it's to fuel the journey of learning itself.
Okay, so this basically breaks down into two main approaches. First, you've got what's called formative assessment. Think of this like your coach giving you pointers during practice. The whole point is to help you get better as you go. Then you have summative assessment. That's the final score of the big championship game. It's the ultimate, how did we do, judgment. Now, most teachers mix these two, but which one they lean on more, that completely changes what your final grade is actually trying to tell you.
But, a philosophy is one thing. Putting it into practice, that's a whole different ballgame. And that brings us right to the person in the middle of all of this, the grader. They're not just some robot plugging numbers into a formula. They are navigating this incredibly complex web of pressures, different methods, and even their own biases. It creates a genuine dilemma for them.
So the first big choice a grader has to make is, what are we measuring against? With absolute grading, it's simple. You're graded against a set standard. If 90% is an A, then anyone who gets a 90% gets an A, period. But then there's relative grading. You probably know it as grading on a curve. Here, you're graded based on how you did compared to everyone else in the class. And that changes everything. The goal suddenly shifts from, I need to learn this stuff, to, I need to beat the person sitting next to me. It can actually discourage people from working together and really twists what achievement even means.
And it gets even more complicated, because beyond just the method, there are all these other forces at play, kind of behind the scenes. Your school might have a rule that only a certain percentage of students can get an A. A teacher might just have a personal idea of what an average class should score, and they'll adjust the grades to match that. Even cultural differences can change what's seen as hard or easy. What all this really proves is that a grade is never a pure, objective measure of what you've learned. It's a product of a really complex and very human system.
So, with all this complexity and, let's be honest, all this confusion, it's probably no surprise that a lot of educators are saying, hey, there has to be a better way. They're starting to explore some really interesting alternatives that go way beyond our familiar A, B, C, D, F system.
So what do these alternatives look like? Well, some folks are using narrative evaluations, basically writing out detailed feedback instead of just giving a letter. Others go for a simple pass-fail system, which can lower the stress and actually encourage students to take more risks and try harder things. And then you have competency-based assessments, which are a total game changer. They don't care how long you sat in a classroom. All that matters is, can you prove you've mastered a specific skill? Yes or no?
The one thing that really ties all of these different ideas together is a big shift in focus. The goal isn't to stamp a final, simple label on a student. Instead, it's all about giving them meaningful feedback that helps them grow. It's about changing evaluation from something that's done to you into something that's done for you. It becomes a tool for getting better, not just a finish line in a race for the best score.
Okay, so this kind of brings us to the big picture. Whether we're talking about traditional letter grades or some new alternative, what are the absolute core principles that make any system of evaluation actually work? What should we really be asking for when it comes to measuring learning?
Well, it seems to come down to four main pillars. First, fairness.
The rules have to be the same for everyone, consistently. Second, transparency. Students should never have to guess how they're being graded. Third, it has to have meaningful feedback, stuff that actually helps you improve. And last, flexibility, because we all know that learning is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Look, without these 4 things, a grade is just a random number. But with them, it can be an incredibly powerful tool for real learning.
So, where does that leave us? We've seen that a simple letter grade is packed with hidden meanings and shaped by all these different factors. So, if a grade isn't just a simple thumbs up or thumbs down, then what should it be? Maybe, just maybe, its real purpose isn't to be the final word, the end of the story. Maybe it's supposed to be the beginning of a conversation, a starting point for a real dialogue about learning, not the final judgment on it.